Zelenskyy to address U.S. senators by video as White House pushes Congress to support aid for Ukraine. Associated Press. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy will address U.S. senators by video Tuesday during a classified briefing as the Biden administration urges Congress to approve the White House's nearly $106 billion request for funds for the wars in Ukraine, Israel and other security needs. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced Zelenskyy's appearance after the administration Monday sent an urgent warning about the need to approve the military and economic assistance to Ukraine, saying Kyiv's war ef. Below are your comments. Well, the time is up for the seniors of this country who are now homeless at rates not seen since the Great Depression. I don't see one politician up in arms over that. These so-called leaders need to turn their attention to the citizens of this country, and it needs to be now. There are plenty of more money, more money, more money. That's always the call, over and over. We don't collect enough taxes to cover just the interest on what we owe as a country, which is now over $1 trillion annually. What we need is to cut spending, cut spending, cut spending. That, and cut so much of the WAST. Already forked over $113 billion plus, Biden wants another $106 billion. Our government faces a shutdown every couple of months because the U.S. is $33.5 trillion in debt. Government spending is completely out of control and reckless. Hard times are on the horizon. No lasting funds for Medicare and funds running out for Social Security. Gee, I wonder why. Let's supply war goods for other countries and let our citizens slide into the darkness of poverty and sickness. Good job, voted representatives. If that truly were the case, which I highly doubt, Europe can pony up the money as this is their backyard, their problem, and it's a situation they're fully capable of taking care of. They should be leading whatever priorities are needed. They have easily more incentive to provide the funding. Next news. Trump seeks to appeal reinstated gag orders in New York civil fraud case. Reuters. New York, Reuters. Former U.S. President Donald Trump is seeking permission to appeal a decision reinstating gag orders in his New York civil fraud case to the state's highest court, a court filing showed on Monday. Justice Arthur Engoron imposed a gag order on Trump on October 3, barring him from speaking publicly about court staff. Engoron acted after Trump shared on social media a photo of the judge's top law clerk posing with U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, and falsely. Below are your comments. This should be ruled on immediately and denied immediately. Trump's attorneys then should be subjected to sanctions and heavy fines. The next time they file a frivolous time-wasting appeal, Trump's attorneys need to be disbarred. It's the only way to stop this behavior. If the appeal is allowed to be heard, it will go the way of all his other appeals. Denied. At this point, it's all about delay. He's trying to get past the presidential elections in the hope that if he wins, he'll pardon himself. Or his DOJ will put an end to all of these cases. Does Trump know that everything he says can and will be used against him? He doesn't seem to grasp that fact, even after his lawyers asked him to stop incriminating himself. Can't tame this ego. Trump has managed to evade the punishment part of the old adage crime and punishment because he appeals every guilty verdict. As long as they continue to grant bail, he skates. So it's clearly time to revoke bail. Trump did successfully appeal the gag order and then immediately proceeded to use his freedom of speech for libel and attempts to incite his followers to violence. Next news. Prosecutors push back against Hunter Biden's move to subpoena Trump documents in gun case. Associate D. Press. Prosecutors pushed back Monday against Hunter Biden's move to subpoena documents from Donald Trump and former Justice Department officials in the firearms case filed against the president's son. His allegations and subpoena requests focus on likely inadmissible, far-reaching, and non-specific categories of documents concerning the actions and motives of individuals who did not make the relevant prosecutorial decision in his case, Prosecutor Leo Wise wrote in court documents. The investigatio. Below are your comments. It's interesting that possession of a firearm by a drug user with no crime attached has rarely, if ever, been prosecuted in Delaware before, while financial reporting fraud in NYC is commonly prosecuted. Is this what they mean by a two-tiered justice system? He should be allowed to subpoena the evidence. If this prosecution is political, then it should be seen by the public. If has no political element, nothing is lost. The wording of the crime drug user is open to interpretation. Would alcohol be considered a drug? Even a casual drinker would be. The GOP doesn't want us to hear Hunter explain how this investigation plus impeachment is Trump's revenge against Joe Biden. Remember Trump's perfect call to Zelenskyy? The GOP is impeaching Joe Biden because Trump demanded it as part of his retribution crusade. I think Hunter has plenty of evidence, and should get documents for the gun case and the tax case. Sure, Hunter has the evidence. Prosecuting him has been a Donnie project since 2016, and there's bound to be all kinds of documentation of Donnie's conspiracy to indict him. Next news. Trump seeks urgent review of gag order ruling in New York civil fraud case. CBS News. Former President Donald Trump intends to appeal a ruling that upheld a gag order in his civil fraud trial in New York. Below are your comments. Trump wants to attack the judge, the judge's wife, and the judge's clerk with claims of bias, but legal team cannot point to one decision the judge has made that suggests bias. A summary judgment of fraudulent activity does not, by itself, suggest bias. His legal team needs to stop repeating. Former President Trump is seeking special treatment that he does not deserve. He certainly does not deserve an urgent review. It's exasperating to watch the American legal system bend over backward to protect him. Trump lacks the basic understanding of the Constitution. Free speech is not an absolute right, it's a conditional right with some basic rules. There are very real consequences to speech, and Trump seems to not understand that. Everyone is free to say whatever they wish. However, when that speech 100% of this is Trump's attempt to create a false basis for appeal, cast doubt on the process, create outrage for his voters to feed on, and cause diversion and delay. Trump and his team filing appeal after appeal after appeal. There is nothing new about this delay tactic. Trump has certainly been able to talk about anything else, including how unfairly he being treated. No one has gotten treated more fairly than Trump. There are tons of things he can talk about. Next news. Liz Cheney warns Trump will never leave office if he's elected president again. NBC News. Washington. Former Rep. Liz Cheney, RYO, warned Monday that if Donald Trump is elected president next year for a second term, he will try to remain in power beyond those 4 years. Below are your comments. I disagree with Liz Cheney on most policies, but she stuck her neck out and I respect her for that. She was willing to lose her seat and should be commended for it. There are politicians admitting that they are too afraid to go against 45. If you take an oath to defend the Constitution, then defend. Trump's last attempt to stay on in power after his defeat at the polls was foiled by the integrity and love of democracy of some of his appointees. Next time, if he's given a second chance, he'll make sure to appoint only sycophants who will have no qualms about destroying democracy and porting. Trump has talked about suspending parts of the Constitution, and there is the suspension clause that allows the whole thing to be suspended. That means the president would have total control of every aspect of the government. It is said that Trump plans to invoke the Insurrection Act on day one if Cheney is absolutely right. Trump, on a number of occasions when he was president, mentioned how he liked how other leaders like Putin, Xi, and Kim were leaders for life of their respective countries, and that he felt the same should take place in America. If Trump can get back to the he'll W. Next news. U.S. out of money for Ukraine. 6 things to know about the aid standoff. The Guardian. White House urges Congress to approve extra funding for war against Russia, but hard-right Republicans are holding out. Below are your comments. Isn't it odd how the war hawks, like Biden, say his proxy war with Putin is to hurt Putin financially and militarily? But the US seems to be the one financially and militarily hurting this war that could have been prevented. Biden started it and he could have prevented it. Aid to Ukraine. First, American aid to overseas is 1% of the total GDP budget. Second, as of December 2023, the U.S. has provided $74 billion in aid, and that is roughly $1.40 a day for every voter in America for 1 year. Third, aid in the form of equipment and supplies. It would be treason to hand over even 1 penny to Ukraine while we are running a $1.695 trillion budget deficit in fiscal 2023, a 23% jump from the prior year, and we have a $33.8 trillion debt. The U.S. is the only nation in the world refusing to defend its own border while sending troops, aircraft. $150 billion plus is enough. Let the EU foot the bill for this next year. It's like this: Ukraine could have been accepted into NATO years ago but turned it down. They are on Russia's border, and can't defeat Russia without NATO assistance. Which really means US assistance because we are the most powerful NATO country. We need to allow Russia to have Ukraine and stop. Next news. 4 Republicans will be on stage for the 4th presidential debate. Here's who's in and who's out. Associated Press. The field of candidates on stage for the 4th Republican presidential debate will be the smallest yet. 4 hopefuls will participate in Wednesday night's debate at the Moody Music Hall at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, according to the Republican National Committee. To qualify for the 4th debate, candidates needed at least 6% support in 2 national polls or 6% in 1 national poll, as well as 2 polls from 4 of the early voting states: Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada and South. Below are your comments. I liked Haley until I found out that she wants a 5-year term limit for all federal employees. Just how many nuclear scientists, Farsi translators, or air traffic controllers does she think this nation has? Why the push to make sure our nation is run by people with little to no experience? The fact a challenger appears. Fuzzypants has just graduated the 4th grade and is ready to take on the GOP candidates. Why is Ram Shady still on? Is Vivek still around? Why is Chris Christie still on the debate stage? He stands absolutely no chance. He should be smart and drop out of the race, and who in the world are his supporters? What kind of lame brains are they? Next news. Trump legal news brief. Trump appeals reinstatement of Judge Engoron's gag order. Yahoo News. After an appeals court reinstates a gag order imposed on former President Donald Trump by Judge Arthur Engoron, Trump's lawyers move on Monday to appeal that decision to a higher court in New York. Below are your comments. It's really not that hard to understand. He can maintain his innocence and offer proof of it. He can attack the credibility of the government's case. He can attack any perceived bias against him. He can question any ruling against him. What he can't do is slander and threaten the officers of the. Trump's fiscal recklessness threatens Social Security and Medicare. Donald Trump was pressed on the larger budget deficits that his 2017 tax law created. In response, Trump hinted that he would look to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid in his second term. While he didn't quite say that those. One would think that the appeals process has a finite stage, that not every decision with which one disagrees can be appealed to a higher court. Apparently, in the case of Donald Trump, the poster child for the two-tier justice system, every RT in every jurisdiction is available for his persona. Next news. Ukraine aid will run out by end of the year, White House says. CBS News. Office of Management and Budget Director Shalanda Young sent a dire warning to Congress Monday. Below are your comments. We should worry about our borders before we worry about another country's borders. The U.S. is the only nation in the world refusing to defend its own border while sending troops, aircraft carriers, weapons, billions of dollars to defend borders of other nations. It refused to spend money on border. No money to anyone until the borders are secured and laws enforced. Given $458 billion to them this year alone. Remember when we didn't have $5 billion to build the wall? Washington. President Biden received a recurring payment of $1,380 from his son Hunter's law firm beginning in L. 2018, shortly after a bank money laundering officer warned that the same account was receiving millions of dollars in Chinese government-linked funds without any. $1 million is a stack of $1,000 bills at a foot thick. $1 billion is a stack of $1,000 bills at as high the Washington Monument. America is in debt for $33 trillion. When will the government start to cry? Next news. DeSantis to run Iowa campaign ad featuring former Trump supporters. CBS News. Ron DeSantis' third campaign ad comes as he tries to close the double-digit polling gap between him and former President Donald Trump. Below are your comments. The "move on" approach is driven by RNC lackeys, media, mega donors, FBI, DOJ, and courts. Efforts to bring Trump down has nothing to do with DeSantis' ability. In all honesty, many independents think Ronnie will be worse than Donnie. Whether they like it or not, Republicans won't be moving on Veer. If a voters want Trump, why would they choose a weak version like DeSantis? If voters don't want Trump, why would they choose a mini-me version in DeSantis? DeSantis isn't Trump and he is Trump, and either way DeSantis loses. DeSantis is a lost soul, pouring money down the drain trying to get votes. He has no chance at all, having burned too many bridges by now. He even talked about getting rid of Obamacare and coming up with a new plan in the spring. Doesn't that sound familiar? DeSantis owes his governorship to Trump, otherwise he would still be a backbench congressman that no one liked. So much for his gratitude to his mentor. Next news. Immigration talks collapse, threatening to sink aid to Israel and Ukraine. NBC News. The collapse of Senate immigration negotiations is threatening to derail aid to Israel and Ukraine in Congress, even as President Joe Biden makes a renewed push. Below are your comments. Schumer is out of touch with the majority of Americans, as might be expected from a New Yorker. The Democrats could well lose the election over this issue. I'm a longtime Democrat, but I think the Republicans are closer to having it right than the Democrats here. We are at the point of borrowing and printing money just to pay the interest on the federal debt. We can't keep paying for others' wars. This can't go on forever. Diplomacy is the only real solution going forward. The majority of U.S. citizens want the border secured and a sane, orderly system for people. WHO quali. FY for asylum. Why does Congress care more about what foreigners want than citizens? But the aide said Republicans are insisting on extreme policies that would end asylum as we know it, and create expansive powers to shut down the border, which they cannot stomach. Extreme policies of having a secure border? Next news. Supreme Court questions opioid liability protections for Sackler family. NBC News. The Biden administration is questioning a bankruptcy plan that lets the Sackler family avoid future lawsuits related to the opioid epidemic. Below are your comments. What everyone seems to be missing is the fact that the actual victims will get pennies if any type of settlement. My question is this. Why are not the actual victims, the people who became addicted and or lost loved ones to opioids buying, considered the first priority for any type of settlement payout? Which includes a provision that protects the Sackler family from liability from future lawsuits. Which should never be the case. Wonder if the Sacklers are friends with Leonard Leo or Harlan Crow. This will be tough for the 5 conservative justices if not, since they'll actually have to vote without being instructed by their donors. Geez, let me guess who the current wingnut Supreme Court will side with. Maybe the everyday, working citizens of America who have been getting soaked by health insurers and Big Pharma for decades? Next news. GOP debate stage shrinks to 4 candidates. NBC News. Learn more about which GOP presidential candidates qualified for the 4th Republican primary debate. on News Nation. Below are your comments. They don't stand a chance. The Republican Party is determined to put a guy that has a mug shot and 91 felony charges as their choice for president. SMH. I predict that this debate will have less substance than an infomercial. Trump is not qualified to run. Nikki Haley is the most articulate and knowledgeable of the qualified candidates. She gets my vote. I do not like Chris Christie, but he's the only one that talks and acts like he's running against the absent frontrunner. He kissed the ring before, and maybe Republicans should listen to him about why he won't do it now. The rest of them are weak and running for second place or to promote book sale. Trump hates debates since, with signs of a reading disability, he has limited knowledge. It's hard to answer specifics to questions with his usual ad-libbing or making up fake facts on the spot and not sound clueless. Next news. James Comer claims Hunter Biden's truck payments are corruption. HuffPost. Subpoenaed bank records suggest Hunter Biden sent his father recurring payments worth $1,380 per month. Below are your comments. If Republicans are going to go after Republican families engaged in the same issues and institute answers to ensure this never happens again, then I'm all for this. But I don't think that's the case. Forbes, August 17, 2023. President Biden is worth an estimated $10 million, up from $8 million when he took office. The INCRA ace has nothing to do with family business dealings in far-flung countries. Instead, he is getting richer by doing what a lot of 80-year-old Americans are doing. Sitting on real This is when Joe Biden was a private citizen. It's not the smoking gun evidence Comer claims it is. Comer and Jordan have unwittingly created a deep chasm of doubt about anything the Republicans, as a whole, claim to be the truth. Now, when either makes a statement, the public just dismiss it as another joke from the GOP. As evidenced by the above article. Next news. Inside Biden's Israel-Hamas war cabinet. Reuters. U.S. President Joe Biden is relying on a small group of veteran advisors to help navigate the Israel-Hamas conflict that has bleeped thousands, split Western allies and risks spiraling into a wider war. A long-serving foreign policy advisor to Biden, Blinken, 61, has traveled to the Middle East 3 times since the conflict erupted, including 6 visits to Israel, juggling the need to show solidarity with Israel after the Hamas attacks with an effort to tamp down regional tensions. Shuttling B. Below are your comments. The U.S. needs some diplomats instead of the totalitarian warmongers representing it. The rest of the world has no respect for the Biden regime's do what we tell you or else attitude. Ain't going to work any longer. What country is Biden and Blinken working for again? The same group of checked all the boxes. War cabinet? Are we fighting Israel's war now? Put Blinken aboard Kerry's private jet and leave the planet for Pluto where they both belong. Neith. One has a clue what to do. Next news. George Santos's post-Congress life, selling videos on Cameo and having fun. The Guardian. Since being expelled from Congress, Santos has joined website that offers access to celebrities of a label to give a personalized message. Below are your comments. He is not a celebrity. Well, maybe in his own mind he is. He needs to go jail without collecting $200 from someone else's campaign funds. OMG, make it stop. I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone and I can't get out. Loved the TZ, but I don't want to live in that space. Closing parenthesis. This is the behavior of a gravely depressed individual who will off himself this holiday season. At least he won't get a pension since he didn't serve the requisite 5 years in Congress. Now if we can get rid of Boebert and MTG next year, we'll save money on them as well since they will have only served 4 years each. It's time for the media to quit talking about him. Until he is behind bars anyways, we would like to know when that happens. Aside from that, he is grossly irrelevant at this point. Next news. North Dakota Governor Burgum exits 2024 presidential race. Reuters. Doug Burgum, the governor of North Dakota who struggled to find his footing in the race for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, ended his campaign on Monday. Burgum, 67, was a successful software executive and investor before his political career and largely self-financed his candidacy. On the stump, he portrayed himself as a traditional, business-minded conservative but was often lost amid the clatter surrounding former President Donald Trump. Below are your comments. He couldn't even buy enough gift cards to get people to support him for the debates. How did he expect to bribe enough people to win the presidency? This Monday? Though it was 20 Mondays ago. He has zero chance, but I did like what he had to say. This guy was alright. Had some good ideas. Maybe President Trump will consider a job for him in his administration. Extra. Read all about it. Unknown governor quietly and quickly quits QWERTY presidential campaign. Next news. Biden's campaign seeks a show of strength in SC primary as new staff is announced. NBC News. President Joe Biden's campaign announced Monday its new team in South Carolina ahead of the February presidential primary. Below are your comments. According to a source, documents show that Hunter Biden's firm Owasco PC made at least 3 monthly payments to Joe Biden. Reuters, Tom Brenner. Joe Biden met Pojarski at an April 17, 2015, dinner at DC's Café Milano. An unproven FBI informant tip said that Burisma owner Mikola Zlochevsky claimed China's not our friend Joe Smo tears of joy. Biden's campaign seeks a show of strength in SC. Primary equals diapers that can handle a 10-pound load, multiple escorts to help old Joe get on the STA. GE, on the plane and get into the car, with old Jill holding his arm to guide him 24/7. No one can save old Joe from stammering, muttering and Biden's senility is rapidly advancing if he still thinks he has a chance of being re-elected. I voted for him. Never again. Next news. Alaska Airlines is buying Hawaiian Airlines. Will the Biden administration let the merger fly? Associated Press. The Biden administration has taken a tough stance against mergers, and it is certain to take a close look at Alaska Air Group's proposed acquisition of Hawaiian Airlines for $1 billion in cash. Alaska Airlines parent Alaska Air Group announced Sunday that it will pay $18 per share for Hawaiian, a huge premium over Hawaiian's closing stock price on Friday. Hawaiian has struggled to recover from the pandemic and new competition from Southwest on intra-isla NDS flights. Below are your comments. Why would a good airline, JetBlue, wanna buy a crummy airline, Spirit? What happened when Sears bought Kmart? Anything good? Biden wants to drive the all-electric presidential 18-wheeler with Hunter to Honolulu for Christmas. The Biden administration has taken a tough stance against mergers. Please. Airline deregulation is worst mistake Congress ever made. Next news. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum ends 2024 Republican presidential bid days before the fourth debate. Associated Press. North Dakota Gov. Doug Burgum ended his long-shot presidential campaign on Monday, blaming his inability to resonate in the race on the Republican National Committee's strict requirements to qualify for the debate stag. The second-term governor and wealthy software entrepreneur dropped his bid just hours before the RNC was to release the list of candidates who had met the polling and donor qualifications for the 4th debate, being held Wednesday in Alabama. Below are your comments. Wow, that would be some blockbuster news if I'd ever heard of the guy. Who? DeSanctimonious is next. He looks like Eugene Levy doing a sketch comedy about politicians. Burgum didn't have much to say anyway. Another vanity candidate serving warmed over Republican talking points from the clown car that is THIR primary. Next news. Democratic Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney announces run for Virginia governor in 2025. Associated Press. Democratic Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney officially joined the 2025 race for Virginia governor on Monday, touting his executive experience over 2 terms in office and pledging to be a pragmatic voice for equality and progress. Stoney, 42, made his formal announcement in a video that highlighted his modest upbringing in the struggles he overcame to become the first in his family to graduate from high school and college. Stoney's entrance into the race sets up a Democratic nomination contest with. Below are your comments. Does this mean that he can now commit crimes openly and claim election interference if the courts want to prosecute him before the election? Yes, this is a not-so-subtle jab at the Trump show. Anyone but him. All Democrats are exactly the same. Open borders. Wars. Next news. White House warns Congress that inaction on aid will kneecap Ukraine. NBC News. The White House warned leaders in Congress that the administration will run out of resources to provide aid to Ukraine in its war against Russia unless Congress takes action by the end of the year. Below are your comments. Of course, inaction will kneecap Ukraine. Our elected representatives cannot seem to work together for our own good. The result is Putin wins because he knew this would happen in the U.S. at the expense of the Ukraine. Well, all you had to do to end the war in the first place was to go back to U.S. energy independence and sending oil and natural gas to our allies like Trump so our allies do not buy Russian and Iranian oil. Trump had the Russian economy reduced to one-third the size of France's and not capable of waging war. Next news. First signs of Trump jury selection process may have just landed in D.C. mailboxes. NBC News. Potential jurors in former President Donald Trump's federal election interference trial may know the wire in the pool now. Below are your comments. The prosecution better secure the best jury consultants in the country to keep his cult off the jury. This is, more than anything else, terrifying Donald John. Let's watch him lash out. The grand juries that indicted Trump with 91 criminal accusations is made of American citizens from both parties, Democrats and Republicans. No one's about the law, especially a common citizen ex-president of our nation, period. There is a goddess if justice is finally coming for Florida retiree in decades-long criminal dement. Dawn. Somewhere in America the ketchup is hitting the wall. Next news. Will Steve Garvey leave the dugout? Politico. The Los Angeles Dodgers legend has done little to get his GOP Senate bid off the ground. Below are your comments. Better question. What would Steve Garvey bring to the U.S. Senate? Mad levels of baseball knowledge? His bio says he played football at Michigan State. It doesn't mention a degree program, or graduatio. The Congress is full of really good athletes. Unfortunately, government isn't a game, it's a company. No doubt not a good speaker, and the policies he would endorse are not popular with the people. Republicans have turned to pushing poorly qualified celebrities who would simply be yes people for tea. Egregious policies. Herschel Walker comes to mind. He is not enough to legislate for U.S. That's the real reason. Next news. Doug Burgum suspends presidential campaign. NBC News. North Dakota Gov. Doug Burgum announced Monday that he's dropping out of the race for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. Below are your comments. How can any one of them pledge to support the eventual nominee if that nominee turns out to be Trump? Question mark. That would be a betrayal of everything that Chris Christie has said. No Republican with a shred of decency should pledge to support Trump. I also suspended my presidential campaign. I didn't even know who he was or that he was still running. It's too bad the RNC cannot disqualify Trumpster. -91 criminal indictments should be sufficient cause. Impending senility should be another. I won't matter, I won't vote for any Republican. Next news. Texas Republicans reject statement against associating with Nazis and anti-Semites. HuffPost. During a meeting of the Texas GOP's executive committee over the weekend, party leaders said the language was too vague. Below are your comments. Hey, they got to keep their base support solid. If it walks like a duck, well, Republicans have to associate with Democrats. There's really not all that much difference. Of course they did. They want to keep their jobs. Let's not set the bar too high. Seriously, that's terrible. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, please thumbs up.